We're unpacking the analytical framework from Patrick Bet-David's source material, Your Next 5 Moves.
Such a fantastic source.
It really is. And we are going to apply it directly to your life. The goal here is to help you construct your own personalized chessboard. Because, as the text makes abundantly clear, strategy is really the only difference between spending your life being incredibly busy and actually being effective.
Right. But to even begin playing chess, though, you have to know what game you actually want to win.
Which sounds super rudimentary.
It does, but lack of direction is where most people lose the game before they even make their first move. I mean, people don't generally fail in life because they lack talent or, because they refuse to work hard.
They fail because they're executing flawlessly on a terrible strategy.
Exactly. Imagine running a marathon at a world-class pace, only to realize at mile 20 that you've been running in the complete opposite direction of the finish line.
Oh, man. That is brutal.
But it happens every day. You need absolute internal clarity before you can make any external moves.
Okay, but how does someone actually find that clarity? Because, telling someone to just know what they want usually just leads to a vague list of things like make more money or just have more free time.
Yeah, which isn't a strategy at all. It requires a level of brutal self-awareness that, frankly, most people avoid. The source emphasizes diagnosing what it calls your entrepreneurial DNA. You have to strip away what society tells you is impressive, what your parents wanted for you, and just figure out how you are fundamentally wired.
And the framework breaks this down into 4 distinct archetypes, right?
Yes. So first, are you an artist? Someone who is primarily driven by the craft and the product itself.
Okay, or maybe you're a builder.
Exactly. A builder gets their thrill from designing the assembly line and scaling the systems. Or perhaps you are an opportunist, highly gifted at sniffing out market trends and pivoting rapidly.
And the last one is the strategist.
Right. The strategist is that rare person who possesses the patience to plot a 10-year takeover of an entire industry.
It's funny, though, because it seems like pop business culture tells us we have to be all of those things at once.
Yeah.
You have to be the visionary artist who is also this ruthless scaling CEO.
Which is such a destructive myth. I mean, if you take an artist who thrives on having total creative control and you force them to manage a team of 200 people,
they're going to be miserable.
Completely miserable. And the business will stagnate. You have to identify your dominant trait. And once you isolate your DNA, you use it to formulate a crystal clear 10-year vision.
And that vision acts as a filter.
A ruthless filter. Every time a new opportunity, a new investment, or just a new distraction crosses your desk, you ask, does this move me closer to that specific 10-year endgame?
And if not, you just discard it.
Exactly. You toss it out.
Okay, but let me challenge this idea of a perfect 10-year vision for a second.
Go for it.
It is very easy to map out a perfect decade when you're sitting quietly with a journal on a Sunday morning, sipping coffee.
Oh, for sure.
But the real world is chaotic. Like a massive client goes bankrupt. A new technology makes your entire skill set obsolete. Or maybe a business partner betrays you.
Yeah, life punches you in the face.
Right. And when that pressure hits and the adrenaline spikes, all that logical vision boarding feels completely useless. We instantly revert back to panic mode.
Well, you're identifying the exact reason why a vision cannot survive without psychological armor. When a crisis hits, your brain's amygdala, which is the emotional primal center, literally hijacks your prefrontal cortex.
And that's the part responsible for logic and planning.
Exactly. So you physiologically lose the ability to think 5 moves ahead. You just can't do it.
Wow, so it's a biological roadblock.
It really is. The source actually shares a defining story about this. The author had spent years building a successful company, mentoring his top leaders, treating them like family.
Okay.
And out of nowhere, several of those core leaders walked out. But they didn't just resign respectfully.
Oh no, what did they do?
They actively tried to dismantle his company by poaching his remaining staff on their way out the door.
That is a profound level of betrayal. I mean, the immediate human instinct there would be to just go to war.
Oh, absolutely.
Like fire off threatening legal letters, wage a scorched earth campaign on social media, or, I don't know, at least scream at someone.
And if he had done that, he would have handed his opponents the victory. Instead of spiraling, he treated the betrayal as a strategic vulnerability rather than a personal attack.
Wait, really? How do you even do that?
He asked himself, where did I go wrong in my leadership? Why was the architecture of my company fragile enough to allow this to happen?
Oh, wow. So he looked inward.
Right. He asked what protocols needed to change so this could never happen again. He analyzed the crisis exactly the way a grandmaster analyzes losing a major piece on the board.
Okay, but how do you train yourself to do that in the moment? because telling someone to just stay calm is essentially useless advice when they feel like they're actively under attack.
Fair point. And the source provides a highly tactical 5-step processing tool for this. It's designed to mechanically force your brain out of the amygdala and back into the prefrontal cortex.
Okay, what's step one?
Step 1 is simple but powerful. You label the emotion. You don't suppress it. You name it out loud or write it on paper. Like, I feel profoundly betrayed and terrified.
But why does simply naming it do anything to solve the actual problem?
Because psychological research shows that the act of articulating a feeling physically dials down the intensity of that emotion in the brain. Yeah, it puts a layer of objective distance between you and the panic. And once that intensity drops, you move to step 2, which is to strip away your paranoia and ask what is undeniably factually true right now.
So not your worst case scenario.
Right, just the raw facts. Then step 3 is the zoom out. You ask yourself, will this specific crisis matter in 12 months?
And I'm guessing in almost every case, the answer is no.
Almost always no.
So by this point, you've stopped the emotional bleeding. You brought your heart rate down.
Exactly. Which opens up step 4. You outline every single option available to you, and you map out the second and third order consequences of each one. You just lay them all out on the table.
And then the final step.
Step 5. You select the option that serves that 10-year vision we talked about earlier, entirely ignoring the option that only serves your short-term ego.
That is a massive paradigm shift. It literally takes you from being a helpless victim of circumstance to being the architect of your own response.
It really does.
So, assuming you have that vision dialed in, and you've mastered this psychological tool to keep your head clear, you're finally looking at the board. But staring at a clear board doesn't automatically give you a winning strategy.
No, it doesn't.
So how do you decide which piece to actually touch first?
Well, you have to accept that there is no universal playbook. Copying someone else's strategy is a guaranteed path to failure because you don't share their starting position.
Right, you're not them.
Exactly. You have to design a custom strategy based on your exact leverage points. Like, are you a scrappy startup with zero capital but total flexibility?
Or are you an established team that needs to play defense and protect your reputation while you fix, internal bottlenecks?
Precisely. You have to know your current reality.
It makes me think of trying to play a complex video game by loading up a friend's saved file.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. You boot up the game, and suddenly you're standing in the final boss room. But you don't know the controls, you haven't practiced the mechanics, and you have no idea what weapons are even in your inventory.
You are going to get annihilated instantly.
Instantly. You have to reverse engineer your own specific progression to win.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. The source actually uses the origins of the author's own business, PHP agency, to demonstrate this exact concept.
Oh, right, because Bet David didn't start with, elite Wall Street connections.
Far from it. He was born during the Iranian Revolution, lived in a German refugee camp, and ended up bouncing around the U.S. military and various odd jobs.
That's a wild background.
Yeah, so when he started his financial firm at his kitchen table, he knew he couldn't compete head-to-head with the Wall Street giants.
He didn't have their saved game file.
Exactly. So his custom strategy was to target a massive, entirely overlooked demographic. He focused on first-generation immigrants and minority communities who were basically ignored by traditional firms.
That's genius. He built his own board with his own rules and dominated it.
He really did.
But, okay, that custom playbook obviously worked incredibly well for him. But no matter how brilliant a strategy is, if it relies entirely on the founder executing every single step, it has a built-in expiration date.
That is the ultimate bottleneck. A business built solely on your personal bandwidth is not a business. It is a very demanding prism.
A prison, wow.
It's true. To move beyond your own physical limitations, you have to master the art of scaling through systems and talent.
Which means replacing yourself.
Yes. You have to hire people who take profound ownership of their roles, and you must build repeatable systems for absolutely everything.
Like what kind of things?
Everything. The way you hire, the way you resolve customer complaints, the way you run a Monday meeting. It all needs a protocol that functions flawlessly, whether you are in the room or, on a completely different continent.
Okay, I have to push back here a little bit.
Sure.
When you systematize every single interaction like that, don't you risk turning a passionate, dynamic startup into a bureaucratic, soulless corporation?
I hear that concern a lot.
Doesn't removing all the human variability essentially kill the creative magic that made the business special in the first place?
It's a really common fear. But it actually represents a fundamental misunderstanding of what systems actually do. Systems do not destroy creativity. They protect the energy required for creativity.
Wait, how do they protect it?
Think about it. If you are spending 20 hours a week personally putting out basic customer service fires or manually tracking inventory, you have zero mental capacity left to invent new products or envision the future of your industry.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Systems handle the mundane, so your brain can handle the extraordinary.
So how do you practically implement these systems without micromanaging everyone to death?
You adopt the 80% rule.
The 80% rule, what's that?
This is a terrifying concept for perfectionists, but it is absolute mandatory for growth. The rule states that if someone else on your team can execute a task 80% as well as you can, assuming you've trained them and provided a clear system, of course, you must permanently delegate that task to them.
But wait, if it's my reputation on the line, accepting a 20% drop in quality feels like I'm just settling for mediocrity. Why would I accept 80% when I can deliver 100%?
Because of the mathematics of compounding output.
Okay, break that down for me.
If you insist on doing everything at 100% perfection, you might complete, say, 3 major tasks in a day, and then you are completely tapped out.
Right.
But if you empower 5 people to execute 20 tasks at 80% proficiency, the net output and the velocity of your entire operation just explodes.
Wow, yeah, that makes sense.
Furthermore, that 20% gap, it's temporary. As your team takes ownership and specializes, their 80% eventually evolves into 95% or 100%.
While you have completely freed yourself up to focus on the macro strategy.
Exactly. And this applies to culture, too. Culture is a system.
Right, it's not just like casual Fridays and a free espresso machine.
Definitely not. It is a deliberate architecture of language, rituals, and standards that dictate how your team behaves and makes decisions when nobody is looking over their shoulder.
Okay, so let's summarize where we're at. At this point, you have a deep understanding of your own DNA. You have the emotional regulation of a monk.
Hopefully.
You have a highly customized strategy, and you have built a systematized machine to execute it. You are a formidable force right now.
You are.
But the board isn't operating in a vacuum. There are other players sitting across from you who want to win just as badly, and they're moving their own pieces.
Which introduces the absolute necessity of mastering power plays.
Power plays. The word power makes a lot of people deeply uncomfortable, I think.
Oh, it does. We are conditioned to believe that if we just keep our heads down, do really good work, and stay out of office politics, our merit will naturally be rewarded.
But that's not how the real world works.
No, it's not. Power is entirely neutral. It is leverage. It is like fire. You can use it to heat your home, or you can use it to burn a village to the ground.
Right.
If you refuse to understand how power dynamics work, I guarantee someone else will use them to outmaneuver you.
So how does someone learn to wield that leverage ethically, without turning into a manipulator?
Well, it starts with observational awareness. You need to map the landscape of your industry or your office, like who actually influences the key decision makers? Where does the real leverage lie?
You have to read the room.
Exactly. You also have to recognize that in the modern economy, attention is currency. If you are invisible, you are powerless.
And what about when it comes to negotiation?
True power in negotiation isn't about being an aggressive shark or bullying people into submission. A master negotiator is an aggressive listener.
An aggressive listener. I love that phrasing.
They ask probing questions to diagnose that the other side is secretly terrified of losing or what they desperately want to gain.
And once you uncover that,
you position your proposal as the vehicle that delivers their desire. You align their win with your win.
And what about the concept of optics? Because honestly, that often feels like a polite word for deception.
Optics are not lies. They are the intentional, strategic framing of the truth.
Okay, give me an example.
Say you run a small 3-person agency. You don't apologize for lacking staff. You frame the truth. You are an exclusive boutique firm that offers high-touch direct access to the founders.
Oh, that completely changes the perception.
Right. If you do not actively control your narrative and present the best version of your truth, your competitors will happily define your narrative for you, and trust me, they will not be kind.
Okay, but let's look at the broader board again for a second. You can master all the power dynamics in the world, but eventually, massive external forces are going to intervene.
They always do.
Right. A global supply chain collapses. A new artificial intelligence makes your primary service completely redundant. The initial strategy is going to fail.
Inevitably. No 10-year vision survives a decade without colliding with reality. This is where the ability to course correct becomes the ultimate test of an entrepreneur.
Reassessing a failing strategy isn't a symptom of weakness.
No, it is a demonstration of precision.
The source uses a brilliant analogy here regarding an airplane's autopilot.
Yes, the autopilot analogy.
If a pilot is flying a commercial jet from New York to London, the plane is technically off its perfect trajectory the vast majority of the time. The wind currents and weather constantly push it off track.
Right, it's never a straight line.
But the autopilot system is continuously pulling in real-time data and making thousands of micro-corrections so that the plane eventually touches down on the exact runway it was aiming for.
It's constantly pivoting.
Exactly. But as humans, pivoting feels agonizing. Why is it so incredibly hard for us to admit the strategy needs to change?
Because of the ego. Your ego will try to convince you that changing your mind is the exact same thing as admitting defeat.
But it's not.
No.
Yeah.
High performers understand that failure is not falling down. Failure is refusing to get back up.
And there's a phenomenal case study of this mechanism in action in the source, right, when
Yeah.
COVID-19 hit.
Yes. So PHP Agency had built their entire corporate culture and sales momentum around these massive, live, in-person events. High energy, thousands of people in an arena.
And then overnight, global lockdowns made their entire operational model illegal. That is a total board-flipping event. I mean, a lot of legacy companies in that exact scenario just froze. They put everyone on furlough, hoarded whatever cash they had, and just prayed for things to go back to normal.
But hoping for a return to the past is not a strategy.
No, it's definitely not.
Instead of freezing, Bet David's team brutally audited their reality. They looked at where the business was bleeding capital, and they leaned heavily into the discomfort.
They didn't run from it.
They pivoted their resources aggressively into digital infrastructure, virtual training systems, and remote leadership models. They embraced the pain of that disruption as a mandatory classroom rather than an excuse to fold.
A mandatory classroom.
Wow. Because they possessed the mental toughness to suffer productively, they adapted to the new environment and actually accelerated their growth during a global crisis.
Suffer productively. That is a concept that truly changes how you view a crisis.
Well,
So if you manage to do all of this, you navigate the betrayals, you wield the leverage, you pivot through the global crashes, and you build a thriving, systematized machine.
you've mastered the board.
Right. But we have to ask the final question. What is the end game? Why are we playing the game to begin with?
That brings us to the final evolution of the Grandmaster's journey, which focuses on wealth and legacy.
Okay, let's talk about that.
The source draws a rigid, incredibly important distinction between being rich and being wealthy.
And society confuses those two constantly.
All the time. Being rich simply means you have a high income. You might make $1 million a year, but if your lifestyle costs $1 million a year and your income relies entirely on you showing up to work every single day.
You are still on a hamster wheel.
Exactly. You are just wearing a much more expensive suit.
So you are wealthy when you own the machine that prints the checks, even when you are fast asleep on a beach somewhere.
Precisely. Wealth is about options, autonomy, and sustainable systems of capital. To transition from rich to wealthy, the framework demands intense financial discipline.
Like what kind of discipline?
It advocates for aggressively saving 20 to 30% of your income, regardless of your current bracket. You then deploy that capital to build multiple diversified streams of income, like real estate, equity in other businesses, or index funds.
It's a long game.
Very long. You adopt a decades-long horizon, and you learn to completely ignore the daily sensationalized noise of the stock market. You build wealth through methodical allocation, not by gambling on the latest trend.
And once you achieve that total financial autonomy, the game changes one last time, right?
It elevates from a game of success to a game of significance. The ultimate move isn't just winning for yourself, it is defining your legacy.
That's a huge shift.
It is. Patrick Bet-David reached a point where he never had to work another day in his life. He could have bought an island and just disappeared.
Which a lot of people would do.
Sure. But instead, he channeled his resources into building Valuetainment, a massive media platform dedicated to educating, challenging, and mentoring millions of aspiring entrepreneurs around the globe.
Because true legacy is about the ripple effect.
Exactly. It is the realization that the ultimate fulfillment doesn't come from the trophies you accumulate on your own board, but from the number of people you elevate and teach how to play the game. It is a story that outlives you.
Well, strategy without execution is just intellectual entertainment.
Yeah.
You can listen to everything we've dissected today. You can deeply understand the mechanics of the board. But if you do not actively reach out and move a piece, nothing in your life will change.
So true.
So here is your challenge as we wrap up. Pick just one concept from today and execute it. Spend an hour tonight writing out the brutally honest first draft of your 10-year vision. Or identify 3 tasks you are currently hoarding that you can delegate using the 80% rule to free up your bandwidth.
Or simply go to your bank account right now and automate a system to capture your 20% savings ratio.
Yes. Do not try to do it all at once. Just pick one thing and make the move today.
And as you contemplate which piece to move first, I want to leave you with one final thought to process.
Let's hear it.
We have spent this entire discussion focusing on how you can adopt the Grandmaster mindset, plotting out your own next 5 moves to claim victory. But take a step back and analyze your current reality. Look at your career, your industry, or even the structure of your daily routine. Is it possible that right now you are actually just a highly functional pawn in someone else's 5-move strategy?
Oh man, that is a heavy question.
It is. How quickly can you recognize when you are merely being played on someone else's board? And what is your immediate first move to take back the player's seat?
Imagine sitting across that chessboard again. Are you the one strategically moving the pieces, or are you the one being moved? It is time to start playing your own game.